Doctor Sleep.
Alright, everybody, the time has finally come. Doctor Sleep is officially out for the whole public. It came out about a week ago. If you were a member of like Fandango, whatever that movie ticket website is, they had like a October 31st release. So this movie's been talked about for the past week, but now the main audience, people that weren't so fortunate to see it a week ago, are now able to see it. I just got back from this 2.5 hour movie. It's pretty long. Is it good? Stick around. So Doctor Sleep is the sequel to Stephen King's The Shining and Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. I haven't read the book, so I can't like compare things and tell you if it's based off the book, if they borrow everything. I don't know. But as a film, this is what I'll tell you about the movie and what my thoughts on it are. So I'm not going to do any comparisons. But this is based off of a novel, of course, and it takes place in the year 2011, and it also takes place current day, and there's even events in 1980 after the events of The Shining. So you get to have flashback moments in 1980, you get moments in 2011, and you get moments in 2019. But the story is centered around Danny Torrance and the after effects of what happened, how he's been trying to cope with it his whole life. He's a recovering alcoholic. He is just traveling around. He doesn't like snow no more. He's been living in Florida. And then he has this shining connection with a smart girl in New Jersey, I believe, or New York, somewhere in there, somewhere around there. And she has an ability like him, but much more powerful. And there's a group of people, I don't remember their names, but let's just call them the Steam Suckers. And they want this little girl, and they want to feed on her and her power for food and energy so that they can just live a long life. Now, this will be spoiler free. I'm not going to try to like dive into things that happen. I just will say this will be kind of quick. I don't want to say too much on it because I know this is a very popular sequel. This is 40 years later, almost. Next year would be 40. So why they didn't just wait for the 40-year anniversary? I guess they were just impatient. Let's release it now. So this movie, what I like about it is there's plenty of callbacks. There's some in the beginning, especially. They hire a new actress to play Shelley Duvall's character, Wendy, and the voice that she does, she sounds like Shelley Duvall's character. She looks like her. They recreate sets from the 1980 hotel. Like, they redo shots. And there's some shots that they redo where I'm just like, they're doing it exactly the same way. Why not just, like, pull a Terminator Dark Fate and just borrow footage so that we can just watch? You know, like, I guess it's just a director paying respect. Like, I want to redo it myself. But I love the little callbacks. You definitely have to watch The Shining to appreciate this a lot more. And I think, even though it's a long movie, if you're not on board, it's going to feel very long. I could point out scenes here and there where I'm like, maybe this is longer than it needs to be, or this isn't exactly needed for the story. This is more just kind of like building character. Like, I don't know, there's not really many scenes that I felt like, well, that doesn't need to be here. I could probably, on a second watch, maybe notice more, like, yeah, that didn't need to be here. But overall, I didn't feel like it was purposely trying to pad out the runtime. It felt like it just has a lot of ground to cover. It's got these 3 different groups it needs to focus on and explain, because there's a lot of things that need to be explained, especially after the ending of part 1. Where do you go from there? How do you explain that? And this movie does explain some of it to a degree, so I won't spoil it in case it's a spoiler. I don't know what's revealed in the trailer because I try to avoid trailers, but I think there's an explanation in here. At least I got one. That's how I interpreted it. You get a slight explanation for why the events in part 1 were happening. But yeah, I just like the little callbacks. You know, you hear a reference to Tony, the Dick Halloran character. They show you the hotel again. They go there towards the 3rd act, and there's that score that the movie opens up with, just like The Shining. So yeah, just moments like that. I like the direction Mike Flannigan took Danny Torrance's character. It makes sense that he would be this alcoholic. They say, you know, alcoholism kind of runs in the family. So his dad was an alcoholic. Now he's kind of one, and he starts going to AA. He meets a new friend, and the friend's very likable. There's likable characters in this movie, and they're very well fleshed out. It's very well acted. It's got definitely a high budget. It has its own directing style. It doesn't feel like it's trying to direct. Like, it didn't feel like Mike Flannigan was trying to like copy the style of Stanley Kubrick's Shining, because it definitely did not feel like a Kubrick film the way it was shot. So Kubrick did a lot of like tracking shots, and the only tracking shots in this movie were when they were purposely like trying to recreate certain shots from the first film. This definitely has its own feel and style, so it won't feel like a sequel to The Shining, like directing wise, but it's definitely got the same, tone and atmosphere and that creepiness that the first one has. I like that they explored the Shining thing, because that was something in the first movie that I wasn't big on. I wasn't crazy about it. I was like, okay, so Danny has a finger thing. What does that do? Jack's just going crazy, and how does that help him with Jack? I think they might even give an explanation for that maze scene at the end, what was going on with Danny. I think. I got some questions still. There's definitely some questions I have about this Shining thing and these people's abilities and how much they can do, but I thought their story, this group, these steam suckers, it was a very interesting element to the story that's very unique and different, and it's very Stephen King-like. So I can probably guess that this is very close to the book. I'd be surprised if this is like Mike Flannigan's story that, he just took little elements from the novel and made his own thing like Kubrick. It feels very Stephen King-like-esque. One great thing about The Shining is that there's lots of cool visuals that are iconic, and I think this one creates a couple of its own with some cool tilting shots and moments with like this chalkboard when Rebecca Ferguson's character is doing her ability. I won't say what it is, but there's moments with her when she's doing like her power. There's definitely some cool visuals in this movie also. But as for like nitpicks, this movie has a heartbeat, and this is a very, very like small nitpick, but I felt like they used it too much. There's a good amount of that heartbeat like sound to it. It works in some moments, but then it just keeps going. Like, it's like, are we still listening to a heartbeat 2 minutes later? It's like, it's kind of getting annoying. But like I said, that's just a small criticism, because I'm just someone who gets annoyed easily. So when that heartbeat in the background was like going on for like 2 minutes straight, I'm like, I get it. Somebody's scared. And another nitpick would be that it's a long movie, just like part one. And I will say that this one feels longer than part one for some reason. It just does. Like when I watch The Shining, it's long, but it doesn't feel that long. This one's long, and you kind of feel it. I felt it more on this movie, on this one, than The Shining for some reason. Can't explain it. It just felt longer, but I wasn't really bored. If you're not interested in what's going on 30 minutes in, it's going to be a rough ride. So know if it's your type of movie or not. So give it 20, 30 minutes, and if you're still not into it, good luck. And just to throw another quick nitpick, they recreate Jack Torrance's character with a new actor, and I didn't think he looked or sounded like Jack Nicholson at all. In fact, why didn't they just do like some de-aging effect? Terminator Dark Fate did it. Why don't they just de-age and make Jack Nicholson Jack Torrance again? That would have been cool. But overall, I think this is a good sequel to The Shining. It definitely pays respect. It has a lot of iconic sets, lots of fan service, like moments in the beginning especially, and then in the third act. So it's definitely like you need to watch this one before this one to appreciate it or understand what's going on. I like the exploration of The Shining. It actually serves the story a lot more than the first one, whereas the first one was more like just a guy psychologically like declining and attacking his family. And this one isn't really as ambiguous as the first one. I think this one's pretty much self-explanatory for the most part. It could drag a little bit for some people, but if you're on board, I think you'll enjoy it. It's a worthy sequel in my opinion. I think critics are saying it's boring, but if you're along for the ride, it's not that boring. It's got some great performances, some cool visuals, good callbacks and respect to the first movie. Mike Flannigan's a good director, and I think he wrote this too. He's the man responsible for Hush. That was a good movie. I think he did Oculus and one of the Ouija movies, Origin of Evil. So this guy knows horror. I won't say I was scared at any moment, because I don't get scared. There's not really like much horror elements other than, they do go there with regarding like violence towards kids, because that's this group's like target is children. So I like that they go there. But it's not like as creepy or scary as The Shining. I think that one utilizes horror a lot more, whereas this one's more just story driven, and it doesn't really create like suspense and tension as well as the first one. So I could say that's a criticism, but I think it's still a good enough sequel. It definitely feels like a legit sequel to The Shining. So I would definitely recommend seeing it. So when it comes to Doctor Sleep, if you're a fan of The Shining, this is definitely a sequel worth checking out. So go out and buy it. And those are just my spoiler-free thoughts on the Doctor Sleep, Shining 2. I wonder why they didn't call it Shining 2. Is there a book called Doctor Sleep? Like I said, I don't read Stephen King's books, so I wouldn't know. I would guess that the book is called Doctor Sleep. But those are my thoughts on Doctor Sleep, aka The Shining Part 2. What did you think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below. I'd like to see if anybody doesn't like this movie or hates it or hates The Shining. Let me know. And thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and you can become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.